Hello, we've made some changes to Angler and also had a lot of questions about it, and we completely expected that. So in this video, I want to kind of show you what's new in Angler and go into a couple of examples of how you can use Angler and some of the basic things that you can start looking at. So right off the bat, let's take a look at in Angler. You'll notice there's a couple of new buttons up here. Run angles and save angles has changed. So if you go in and you create an angle, let's just create a fake one real quick. We'll go back to August 1st, and this is just going to be something crazy just to give an example here. But let's just say it's for the month of August so far, the 1st through the 14th, horses that have run in post position 1, and let's say that we'll click on the factors here. Post position 1, they have they're ranked first in average best 2 of last 3 speed, first and average late of last 3 E1, and have the best average lifetime earnings. So these are going to be pretty good horses probably. Well, didn't work out that way. So 25 results were found with only 6 winners. And let's say for whatever reason I wanted to save this angle. Since I have the stats here, I'm going to click the save button, and you can see now that these stats over here have been applied to the angle, and I'll just call this test angle and click save. And now when I go look at my angles, when I load my angles, I can sort all of these, and so the one that I just created was a test angle, and I can come over here and see that it's got some it's a low win percentage, negative ROIs across the board, and all the information about that angle is in here. So the number of results that I found in the angle, which is the number of matching horses that you found when you created it, the win percentage, the various ROIs, place percentages, place ROIs, etc. So that's all saved now with the angle. As long as you click that start search button and have this populated here, when you save the angle, that'll all be saved with it, so that when you go sorting your angles, you'll see that information. The other key thing that we've done here is we've created a run angles button, so that you can, when you click this button, it's going to go through all of your saved angles, and it's going to run them for today's date. So if you even if you've saved your angles, with a time frame of the last 2 years or whatever, when you created them, when you click that run angles button, it's going to go through all of your angles and change the date to today. So if you when you click that button, it's going to be looking at today's date, and it's going to find any horses that match the angles that you've created. This is extremely helpful if you have a lot of angles saved already, that you don't have to open up each one individually and change the date to today to see if there's anything that matches. So all you do is click this button, a screen will pop up, it'll crank through them all. Depending on how many angles you have, it might take a second or two. So you can see that of my real angles, I have 2 of them that have horses running today that I would be very interested in betting on, or taking a closer look at anyway, and to make sure that there was nothing in there that would prevent me from wanting to bet on them. These are pretty good angles. And then of course that test angle thing that we just created popped up. It's got a horse here that I of course probably wouldn't want to bet on, but anyway, that's the idea. You create your angles, you click the run angles button, and then everything that matches is going to pop up for today. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that last angle that I created, and to do that I click the load angle button, and then I just search or sort it by test angle. I click the X by it. Are you sure you want to delete it? Yes, I am, and it's gone. So then when I run the angles again, that test angle should not be there. We should only find the 2 matching horses from the real angles. So that's a very nice new addition, and it makes things a lot easier to look for the angles that you've already created and find those matching horses for today. All right, now let's take a look at Angler in general and try to give you some ideas on how to use it. There's really an infinite number of ways to use this thing, and so there's no right way or wrong way, but here's a couple of tricks that may help you kind of understand it and give you a better idea of how most people are using it to their advantage right now. A question we get a lot is, well, should the angles be specific to the race type, or should they be specific to a factor, or should they be specific to a trainer? And the answer is they can be specific to anything. You can build an angle around a race type. You can build an angle around a trainer. You can build an angle around a horse. You can build an angle around anything. And it's it's a good angle if it's profitable, predicts a lot of winners, and is over a large enough sample that it's useful. You don't want to create an angle for just something that has happened once in the last 2 years. There's no way to know that that's consistent or not. So generally, you like to have an angle that's occurred multiple times. Let's say 100 is a pretty good baseline. Over the last couple of years, this has popped up at least 100 times, and then over that 100 times, you have some kind of a win percentage that's acceptable. Maybe it's 30%, or maybe a little bit higher. But the key thing is that it's profitable. If you would have bet every one of those horses, you would see a profitable win ROI. Now, when you're looking at a specific race, you'll notice we have this button here that says Open an Angler, and when you click that, it's going to open up Angler, and it's going to set these conditions to exactly what this race is. So this is a Saratoga. This is today's free race. This is a Saratoga 1.125 dirt stakes race. So when I come over here, I can see that it's going back 2 years. On the track, it's picking Saratoga. The distance is exactly 9 furlongs, so the surface is dirt, and the class down here is non-graded stakes. So it's looking at this kind of race at Saratoga. So what do you do with this? Well, there's a lot of things you can do with this, but let's just take a look at a couple of things. So if I'm looking at this race today, and I'm looking at all these factors down here, ranked from first to worst, and right off the bat, I would see this jumps out at me. The two best factors are average of last 3 E1 pace and average of last 3 E2 pace, and I noticed that the same horse is ranked on top in both of them. So a question I would ask is, how often does a horse who is ranked first in these two factors do in this? How well does that horse do? So it's easy when you open up Angler. You can set those conditions over here. So let's go ahead and just run this. So we're doing nothing here other than saying, when I click Start Search, I've got no conditions selected other than what this race type is, and I see that there's been 99 horses running this race type at Saratoga over the last 2 years. And by looking at this win right here, the win number, I see that there's 14 winners. So I know that there's been 14 races comprised of 99 total horses. So and down here at the bottom, of course, you're seeing this entire list of all the horses that matched. So now I'm going to come back over here to Bird Dog, and I'm going to look at this again, and I'm going to say, all right, average of last 3 E1 pace and average of last 3 E2 pace. So I'll come over here, and I'm going to look at the factors. I'm going to click on the pace tab. So average of last 3 E1 pace ranked first. So I've got these sliders set on 1 and 1. So that's exactly what I'm looking for, and you can see that over here. It says average of last 3 E1 pace must be exactly first. So the horse must be first there. And then average of last 3 E2. And then I'll click the Start Search with those two conditions. And it comes back, and I can look up here, and I know that there's been 10 horses that have been ranked first in both average of last 3 E1 and average of last 3 E2 pace. And that's pretty good results. This isn't a gigantic sample, but in the 10 times that there have been horses that have met those conditions, 4 of them have won, and it's been a pretty nice ROI. So when I look at when I'm evaluating this horse number 7 being ranked first in these two top factors, right off the bat I can say, well, he's got a pretty good shot at winning this race, about a 40% chance based on this somewhat small sample of similar races. 60% of the time they hit the board, and if you would have bet them all, to win, you would have made a profit of $29. So when I come back and I look at this horse, I can see that its odds or morning line odds are 20 to 1. So there's a lot of other things that you may want to ask yourself about this horse before jumping in and betting on it. I look back here, I'll open up its PPs, and I'll say, his last distance was 6 furlongs. So that's something we can go over here and check. How often do horses win this 1 1/8 stakes race coming from a 6 furlong race? So let's go back over to Angler, and I'll get rid of these two conditions here, and I'll hit Start Search again just to know that we're back to our baseline, which is 99 horses and 14 winners. So up here I can check that. I can say the last distance, and I can set that to what I can set it to a range, or I can set it to exactly what I'm looking for. So in this case I want to know that the horse ran 6 furlongs in his last race, and I'll hit the start search button and we'll see how many times that's happened. Well, and then over the last 2 years there's only been 3 horses that have run 6 furlongs last time out into this mile and 1/8 stakes race, and as you can see they both, or all 3 of them have none of them have hit the board. And I can come down here and I can see those horses, and I can see that they finished 5th, 4th, and 4th, which isn't terrible, but it's not very inspiring kind of a way to come into a mile and 1/8 race. So that's how you would check this. So now based on being ranked in those 2 pace categories, looks pretty good. But when you consider, well, those 2 pace categories were earned in a 6 furlong race, maybe not. So we'll take that condition off, and you can go over here and set it back to what it was, or you can just click the button here in the settings and it goes away, and then we hit start search again. We get back to our base. Now we can come back over here, and so there's a lot of things you can look at here and question and see what's worked in the past. So let's look at something like the score. And again, the score, just to refresh you, is based on where you ranked in last finish, where you ranked in lengths behind over the last 3 races, speed last race, and your class difference. And when you combine all that together, the lowest number is the best and the highest number is the worst. So let's look at these scores and say, how often does a horse with a score of over 1,000 win this kind of a race? So I go back to Angler, and I'd come down here to the horse section, and I'd look at the score, and I'd set this range to anything over 1,000. So I'm moving this slider to 1,000, and so now I've got a range to 1,000 must be higher than or equal to 1,000 on the score. How often do horses rank that highly or with that big of a score win? And you can see it's not very often. There's been 11 horses ranked that had a score rank of 1,000 or higher, and only 1 of them has won. So maybe I come back here and say, I'm going to focus my handicapping just on these top horses right here. Yeah, you could spend hours going through this, but it's really, this is a kind of a key way to build an angle, or to start looking at this one-off on each type of horse in the race. And if you've decided, if you've handicapped this, you have a mix or whatever other method you've chosen, and you end up on a particular horse, it's a good way to kind of check it to see if that profile works. So we'll go back, we'll look at, so we can see in the pace factors, the 7s on top, and the top 2 factors which happen to be pace. But let's look at speed. Now we look at this horse. This one horse seems to be very dominant in all of these speed factors. So I would check that average speed last 3 and average best 2 last 3 speed. How do those horses do? We'll come over to Angler, get rid of that last condition, and we'll go over to the factors here, and we'll go to the speed, average best 2 last 3. We'll set that to 1. And what was that other one? Was average speed last 3. And average speed last 3, we'll set that to 1. So how have horses that have been ranked first in both of those speed categories done? And click the start search button. Not very well. There's been 12 horses that have been ranked first in both of those, and you've had 2 winners, and it's a negative ROI on that, but 66% of the time they've hit the board. It was a profitable place bet, but that's not something that's going to make me automatically want to bet on that one horse over here. So this is the kind of stuff you can do horse by horse or condition by condition to kind of get a better idea of what you're looking at in this race type. And again, this is not a great race type to be using, because it's only had a limited number, a mile and 1/8 non-graded stakes races at Saratoga. There's been 14 of them over the last couple of years. So this isn't a huge sample, and it's not something that I would take as the gospel, but this is just to illustrate how you can use that button, open an Angler, to kind of get a better idea of how things work. Now, another entirely different way to use Angler for this race type, and I'll show you what I do. So again, looking at the race I'm getting ready to handicap, I'm going to click this open an Angler button, I'm also going to come back here and click it again. I want it open twice, so I'm going to have two windows that have the exact same thing in it, and I'll explain that in a second. So we're coming over here. I'm going to click start search on both of these windows, and this is really, it's fantastic if you have two monitors. It makes it real easy to do this. So on this first window, I know that I've got 99 horses and 14 winners. So I'm going to come back to this other window here, and I'm going to say, and this is key, and this is something you need to really understand. I'm going to change the finish current to first. So what that does, you can see now there's 14. It's saying, all right, only show me the 14 horses that won this race. If I would have set, I can set this to second, and now it's going to only show me the 14 horses that ran second in this race. But of course we're looking for winners, so we're going to set this to 1. So now I'm looking at the 14 horses that won this race. And now I want to find, in order to create an angle for this race, I want to find out what these 14 winners have in common. What can I deduce from these 14 winners and apply it to the other 99 horses in this race? And I want to filter out all the horses that didn't win, and I hopefully can find an angle that leaves me with mainly with winners. So there's a lot of ways to approach this, and what I like to do first of all is I can go to this columns here, and this is going to select all of the things that that you want to see displayed down here in the bottom screen. So now I'm looking at these 14 winners. I want to find out some more information about them, and I'll come back over here. I'm going to click on this other tab right here, because this is where the information I'm looking for is found. And I'm going to say days since last race. I want to know what the date, how long of a layoff is acceptable for winning this kind of a race. I'm going to come down here and pick speed percentage last race, and I'm going to drag that over. And I will go down and grab another couple of factors here that are usually pretty predictive. I'll find the score and off odds last race. So I'll click start search again, and now I'm looking at these 14 winners, but I've got this other information in this column and these columns down here. So I'll search here days since last race. I can see that the longest layoff any of these 14 winners had was 120 days. So I'll come back over to my original window here that has all of the horses in it, and I'm going to set that as a condition. I'm going to say, all right, show me, okay, there's 99 horses, but now I'm going to say that you cannot have had a layoff longer than 120 days, because none of the other previous winners have had a layoff of greater than 120 days. So I come back over here, days since last race, I'm going to set that to 120, and we're going to see if any of these 99 horses get eliminated, and I know that all the 14 winners are going to be there. So it only took off 3. That's not a really big drop. So we got to refine this a lot more in order to make this look like a good angle. So I'll come back over here, speed percentage last race. Well, this you like to see this a little bit tighter, but you can see that most of them were ranked first in speed last race, and then you get down here and you've got these two guys at the bottom that were 77 and 68. So I'll come back over here and I'll say 68 is the absolute lowest I'll accept, and so I go to the speed last race selection here and I'll say 68. Have to have a speed percentage last race between 68 and 100, and I'll hit start search again. Now we've dropped off 2 more. Still not great. And we'll say off odds last race. This is not going to be good. You had a 50 to 1 last time out, and we'll come over here, go to the finishing odds, and you can see that the off odds last is all the way up to 50, so that's not going to reduce anything. And finally we'll look at the score, and we'll say that your highest score is 1089, so we'll come over here and we'll go back to the score, and we'll say it can't be any lower than 1100, or any higher than 1100. So we're looking only at between 0 and 1100, and let's start search, and that knocked off a few, so that got us down to 86. Now our in general, just using these 3 things, speed percentage last race, score between 0 and 1100, and days since last race less than 120. We've kept all of our 14 winners. We've knocked off some of these non-contenders. We're still at we're positive on that if you want to bet every one of these that it found, but you know that's not acceptable. We're going to have to reduce this a lot more. So you come back over here to this window where we're looking at just the winners, and you click the Analyze button. Now it's going to show us where the winners ranked in each factor, and this is starting to really look pretty good, because I can see that right off the bat, average E1 pace, every one of these winners was ranked between 1st and 6th in average E1 pace. We have 14 winners over here, and that's 1, 3, 6, 8, and 6 is 14. 6 of the winners were ranked 1st in the average E1 pace, but none of them have ever been ranked worse than 6th. So I'll come back over here and I'll set that as a condition. Expand factors, pace, average last 3 E1 pace. You have to be in the top 6. I'll hit start search. Now we've dropped that from 86 to 75. Come back over here and we'll look at the next condition. Last purse rank also has to be in the top 6. Click on expand factors. I'll go over to class because that's where the purse is. So last purse top 6. So 1 to 6 on purse. We've knocked off a couple of more. So now we're looking pretty good. We've got a, using this angle, it's up to 20% with a $33 win ROI. So let's go a little bit more here, and we will we start looking at this next group of factors, and you can see it's 1 to 9. That's not very restrictive, and this one goes all the way to 1 to 10. Turf pedigree rank, top 7. I'm looking for things that are pretty restrictive, top 5, top 6. So average E2 pace rank, top 6. We'll go back over here and select average E2 pace, 6. We're hoping after we click this that 70 number drops. Drop by 1. I'll click Analyze again. Win percent top 6, trainer current year, rank top 6. So I'll come back over here, expand factors, go to class, win percentage top 6, start search, trainer current year, top 6. What happened here? You saw that it dropped from 14 to 12. This will happen sometimes because some of these, if you don't have if a horse does not have any data for that particular factor, it's not going to show up over there in those charts. So there's been a couple of trainers within this race historically that don't have a ranking in trainer current year, and that's probably because, well, it could be a couple of things. It could be that they're first time trainer, which is unlikely, or it also could be because they are a European trainer bringing a horse over here and there's no data. So we're not going to use that factor. So I can come over here and I'm going to take off this, actually click jockey current year, trainer current year. Let me get on the right one. Trainer current year top 6. Alright, so that one works. So that's you'll see that a lot. That was a bad example because I clicked the wrong one, but it still holds true. And things like you may see every one of the horses is ranked in the top 4 in trainer jockey ROI meet. Well, that may be true of the winners, because a certain group of the winners, because they were ranked in the top for trainer jockey ROI meet. But not every horse that's running this race type even has data for trainer jockey ROI meet, because maybe the trainer and the jockey have not had a horse together in this particular meet, so they're not going to be ranked over there. So keep an eye on that. If you start noticing that your total winners drops, that means that some of the horses were not ranked within that category. So now we're up to 23%. We'll come back over here, do the Analyze again, and see if we can't find a couple of more things that you could use here. to reduce this, we're going down the list here, and here's an example. So another way to check this is 14. We know there's 14 winners. We can add these up. That's 6, 8, 12, 13. That wouldn't work since there's 13 here and 14 here. Trainer current and meet. Well, in the money percent, top 6. In the money percent, top 6. Didn't help anything. So that's, you go through this process over and over again and start reducing these factors. You'll also, when you have a big sample of races, let's say instead of this small sample of 14 races, you're looking at something that's got several hundred races, it's going to be very okay for you to say, if you're looking at it and you notice that, let's say most of the winners in last finish were top 4, you can get rid of these these horses that had 1 here. You're going to lose those, but you're going to increase your percentage a lot. You're going to miss a couple of them occasionally, but your goal here is to get a very high percentage. So if you eliminate some of the winners, that's fine, but the trade-off is you got to be eliminating a lot of losers. So I will give up 1 winner in exchange for giving up 10 losers. That's not a problem. I want to eliminate as many losing horses as possible, and if a couple of the winners get eliminated along the way, I'm okay with that, as long as I'm left with a pretty big sample of winning horses. Another thing you can add over here is the running lines, and this gets it's pretty tedious, but it's very informative. So let's just take a look at, I'll add a couple of them here. So I'll go to the select columns and I'll go to the running lines, and I'm going to look at this is the last race and the second to last down here. So I'm going to start looking at the third call and the finish last race. So last race third call position and links behind, and last race finish position and last race finish links behind. And I'll click start search again, and the third call position, I can see that, well, I put that on the wrong screen. That didn't help. I'll go ahead and add it over here. Third call position, third call links, finish position. Okay, so third call. At the third call in the last race, you got 8th to 1st. That's not very restrictive. But we can see over here that no horse was more than 13 links behind. I'd come over here and I'd say third call links behind, no more than 13. Didn't help. Finish links behind 24, that's not going to help either. But again, this is just to illustrate how you go through this factor by factor, piece of information by piece of information, and start narrowing it down. So and there's a lot of other things you can do here. Let's say you wanted to start looking at what kind of races they're coming into this from what type of race are they entering this race. So if I go over here and I uncheck all these last classes, and I'll just start maiden claimer, I'm sure there's going to be no maiden claiming horse is going to enter this race and win, and that's 0. And then I check, next thing I'll check is maiden special weight. Has any horse come into this race from a maiden special weight? Yep, 1, and it won. That's pretty interesting. From an allowance race, six times horses have entered this race from an allowance races, and this is very interesting, 6 times they've won. So that's the kind of stuff you'll uncover here. So if you come into this race from an allowance race, it's happened 6, the 6 winners have come into this from an allowance, 6 of the 14. Now we go to non-graded stake, 3, and then finally claiming, 0, and we'll look at anybody dropping in from graded stakes into this kind of race, 4. So right off the bat, we know that you can't win, or no winner of this race type has come from maiden, claimer, or claiming. So we still get the 14 here. We'll come over here to our test page, and we're going to say you can't come from maiden, claimer, and you can't come from claiming. And we'll click that. Didn't reduce anything. So we've gone through this. You know, we could keep trying to refine this, and we probably could get it down, but just to illustrate here, I'm going to change the date. Well, let me just save this angle. So I'm going to save this angle, and I'm going to call it Saratoga 9 furlong non-graded stake, and I'm going to save it. Now when I run my angles for today, it's going to pop up and it's going to tell me if there's any horses that match these conditions we've popped in here for this race. So I'm going to click run angles. Yep, it's got one horse. So this Jewels in Rome. So if I come down here, another thing I can do is just change the date here. I just click on it and it immediately goes to today, or you could change the date over here. So I'll hit start search. So that's interesting. Only one horse today matches all of these conditions that we've put in. So every other winner of this race type has had these minimum conditions. Speed last race between 68 and 100, days since last race less than 120, score of between 0 and 1100, third call links behind not more than 13, rank first through sixth in E1 pace, E2 pace, first through sixth then in the money percentage, last purse rank first through sixth, trainer current year first through sixth, and win percentage first through sixth. And when we apply all of that to today's race, there's only one horse that meets all those conditions, and that's number 10. Now when I come back over here to Bird Dog, every one of these horses has been eliminated except for the 10. And it's pretty interesting. You also see the 10 down here show up in all of the previous mix spots items. You know, he's highly ranked in Bird Dog, and so he pops up a lot of places. And so without this information, I would have started looking at the, you know, the 7 and the 1, but now I know that you know, the 7's coming into this race from a 6 furlong, and that's never happened before. Nobody's ever done that. So statistically, I'm really liking the 10, but keep in mind we're looking at a small sample of similar races here. What we do know is that every other winner of this race, the 14 other winners of this race, have all had a profile that was within a certain range, and the only horse today that meets those is the 10. It doesn't mean that another horse is not capable of winning. It's just saying over the last 14 similar race types, all of those 14 winners had a specific profile. They had to be ranked within a certain range of things, and today there's only one horse that meets that profile, and that's the 10. Now if you get into a race when you use this method in angler, and you've got let's say it's something like 6 furlong dirt claiming at parks, where, you know, they run several of them a day and they run all year long, you know, hundreds and hundreds of similar races, you'll find that you know, you can narrow these things down, and you might be ultimately dropping a 7-horse field down to 3, or a 8-horse field down to 5, and very occasionally, you know, it might drop it down to 1 or 2. It's really a good way, if you build an angle this way for a race type, to start looking for contenders. And you know, I've built up a little sample of them, and we're going to be doing some stuff here that's going to make this a little bit more automatic. But this is the general idea, and then that's if you're going to create an angle for a race type. And again, there's thousands of ways to create angles, and you know, I'm for the people that have been using this and kind of understand it, I've been really pleasantly surprised in some of the neat things that they've done in terms of angle creation. There's a lot of things you can start with, and you know, I'll give you one more example. I know this is getting kind of to be a long video, but there's a ton of information. We'll keep doing these videos, but let's just start over from scratch. We'll go back to Angler, and I'll hit clear all and give you kind of the basis for creating angles from scratch. So creating an angle really starts with having a question and then investigating it a little bit more. Um, so let's the first thing you do is select a date range, and let's just say we go back to the beginning of the year, January 1st through yesterday, and maybe our question is, how often do horses who have a big advantage in late pace win? And so you go to the difference between being ranked first in a factor and having advantages. If you're ranked first in it, it doesn't matter how much you're ranked first. But on the advantage side, you can specify how big that advantage is. And so if I go to expand advantages and I say pace, and I want to look at average late pace, and I think that horses that have a big advantage in late pace win a lot, I'm going to find out if that's true. So I'll say that the minimum advantage they have to have is 5, and it can be up to 100. So the minimum is 5, and you can see that popped in over here. And I'll click start search, and it'll go through all the races through the beginning of the year, and it comes back and says, well, horses that have had an advantage of 5 or more in average of last 3 late pace won 22% of the time. And that's not a bad starting point, but the real information I'm looking for here is found under the tracks. And so then I'll sort by the tracks where this is true, and I'm going to come up here to the top one, and that's Turf Paradise. They're not even running now, their meet's not running, but at Parks they are. So now if I go over here to the track filter and I say only show me Parks, and I hit start search again, now I'm looking at just horses that have had that 5-point advantage in average late pace at Parks, and it's 26% of the time, but it's a profitable angle to play there. It's happened 299 times this year. If I would have bet every one of those horses that popped up, I would have made $44. But I want to refine that. This is the starting point for the angle. This is profitable on its own, but I want to get this up a lot higher. I want to eliminate 200 of these losing horses and only try to focus on these winners. Now that's not going to be possible to eliminate them all, but I want to get this percentage up much higher. I want it to be way above 30, so that I feel like this is a pretty good angle that I can play all the time. So the first thing I could do here, again, I'm gonna restrict this to the winners, and I do that by going over here and changing that to 1, and I'll click start search. Now I've got 79 winners, and I'll click the analyze button. And the bigger the sample is, it's going to take a little bit longer. So I can go down here. I know that they're all, well, it says all of them are ranked first in average late pace. Well, that's because we set that advantage to 5. But I want to go down here and start finding some things that are pretty. So average best 2 of last 3 speed rank. A lot of them are ranked first in that. A couple of them second and third, and then you get 5, and then you can see here that there's 1 that was ranked 5th, and then 2 that were ranked 6th. So this is a good way to illustrate how I'm going to sacrifice these 2, and I'm going to say you have to be ranked top 4 in average best 2 of last 3 speed. So I come back here, I'll take that finish off. Now I'm looking at 299 horses, 79 winners, but now I'm going to say you also have to be ranked top 4 and average best 2 of last 3 speed. And I want to see how many of those 299 horses I can eliminate and how many of these winners I can keep. And I'll click the start search button. So I dropped off 3 winners, and I got rid of 30 losers up here. So that was a pretty good chunk. And that's the process. I'm going to start whittling this down a little bit. So I just repeat. So finish current first, start search, analyze, and I'm going to go down here and find another factor where I can chop off some horses. Last purse rank, top 7. Go over here, expand factors, go to the class, last purse, top 7. Let's see if I get rid of any of these. I dropped off 9 of them, so it's getting a little bit better. So that's the process. So this on its own right now, pretty good angle, but I want to get it much higher. You can start looking at things down here. Let's see how this works in maiden claiming races. I'm just going to start looking at race by race. It's not profitable in maiden claiming races, but it's a 33% win rate, so I'm probably going to keep that. Maiden special weights, 38%. Allowance, 27%, low but profitable. Non-graded stakes. It's happened. There's only been 3 non-graded stakes here where that's happened. 1 winner. I'll keep that. Claiming races, very profitable but not a high percentage. And then finally I look at the graded races. 1. So that's not a big deal. So there's not a lot I want to eliminate there. I think I'll keep those, all of those. Another key thing is age. So I'm going to look at go down here to the horse, and I'm going to say in 2-year-old races, you know, you get all these weird advantages because not a lot of horses have run a lot. So let me see how that works with 2-year-olds. You know, you keep, there's been 5 2-year-old races, 2 winners, so we'll keep that. 3-year-olds, 38%. And you'll notice a lot of times that there's a sweet spot on the age for these kind of angles, and for 3-year-olds this is very good. Let's see how it is for 4-year-olds. Also very good. And then as you start getting older with these horses, maybe it starts getting worse. Yeah, with 5-year-olds it's 21% and not profitable. Let's see if you're 5. Let's just look at 5 and up. 5 all the way to the maximum. Old horses. See, you've got 102 and only 19% winners and negative ROI. So if I say now on this angle, I'm only looking at 2-year-olds through 4-year-olds and forget these older horses. This angle becomes much better. It's 35% winners, positive ROI. So we're looking at parks. Every race this year where a horse has got an advantage in last late pace of 5 or more, he's between 2 and 4, or she's between 2 and 4. They have a last purse rank between 1st and 7th, etc., etc. So this is where you're getting into some pretty good stuff. So this is an angle that I would play, and I'm going to keep refining it. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to add some columns now. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to find the days since last race. I'm going to throw that in here by the horse. I'm going to find their speed percentage last race, and I'm going to add their score. I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to change it to just winners again so I can look at these ranges. So I'm going to look at the days since last race. You get 427, but I can see that the vast majority of them fall below that. The vast majority of them are below 100. So I'm going to take that off. Now I'm going to restrict this to horses that have run within the last 100 days and see if that helps me or hurts me. So I've got 56, I'm at 35% with a $54 ROI. If I put that condition in there, it goes up a little bit, so I'm going to leave that in there. I'm going to chop off some of those horses that are coming off of long layoffs. The score, I sort that, and I can see that all of them but one has been under 1,000, so I'm going to add that as a condition. Well, let me go back and change this to winners again. Sorry. Yeah, well, all of them but one has been under 384. So the highest score rank is 1152. The next highest is 384. So I'm going to change my maximum score to qualify for this angle to 400. So we're at 35 and 35.9% with a $58 ROI. Let's see what that does to it. Actually did not help at all. So I'll take that off. Finally, I'll look at speed last race. Gonna go down here. Most of them are above 75. Look at the winners. All of them are above 78. So we'll put that in as a condition. Now, lowest we'll accept is 78. So we dropped off a few more. We dropped off 7 of those horses. So now we've got 37% and a $72 ROI. So this angle we're building is all started from the premise that you think horses with a big advantage in late pace win a lot, and then we kind of focused on just the track where that looked, or the couple of tracks. You can add them all in, but parks and late pace, and then what are the other conditions that make these late pace horses win, and then you start kind of whittling it down as much as you can. And we can work on this angle. You can work on this thing for hours to get it as tweaked as you possibly want it to be, where you get the highest win percentage, and go through all of this stuff. If they've had a bullet since last race, you could just check that and see how that changes things. Well, there's only 8 horses that meet all those other conditions and have a bullet workout since their last race, and the percentages aren't that much different. So you'd uncheck that, hit start search again, you get back to where you were. But you can add these things in one by one by one, and start getting very very accurate angles. And we'll just, I'm okay with this one right now as an example. I'll call it Parks Late Pace ADV, and I'm going to hit save, and that's going to be my angles now. And when I run angles, I'll see if there's anything that is running today at Parks that has this late pace advantage, and there's not. So what about tomorrow? We can go over here and I can change the date to today's the 15th. We'll see if anything's running tomorrow, the 16th, at Parks that has this. Nothing. So you find these angles, they don't pop up every single day. You might find that they pop up once a week, a couple times a month, once a month. So that's why you need to build a big library of angles, so that you have a lot of really strong plays every single day. So we can look at this angle and we can see, all right, how did it do in the month of August? Was there anything at all that met these criteria in the month of August at Parks? There were 7 horses this month at August, and only 2 of them won. So if I go back and said, all right, if I had bet this all the way through July, how did I do? July was a little bit better. There was 29 with 11 winners, and I would have made money in July. And if I go back to June, would that have been profitable in June as well? No, I would have got smoked in June. So now I'm going to look at this all the way back to 2014, June 1st, and then see if this angle holds up. And it's not holding up that long, so that there's a lot more work that needs to be done on this angle. I want to make sure that it's profitable. You can have a losing month on an angle and still want to keep it, but when I expand this date range, we created this angle looking at just this year, and that's a good place to start, because you got limited data, and you can find if there's if it's worth pursuing. It's worth pursuing, but it's also something that needs a lot more refinement for me to even consider keeping this. I wanted to make sure that it's profitable over the long haul. So over 633 races, it's not working out. It's a negative ROI. I know it could be improved, but we would have to do some work. And let's see if we can find a couple of things that would help it. We'll do it real quickly, and then we'll end this video. But we're going to go back to just winners. We're going to click analyze again. And we want to make this thing profitable for over the long haul, or else it's not worth not worth keeping. So here we can see the last finish. Horses that finished, the bulk of them finished in the top 4. Let's just see if focusing on just those kind of horses helps this out, and how far we can go. So last finish must be between 1 and 4. What does that do for us? Yeah, that fixed it from a long-term perspective. It chopped off a lot of horses. Now we're up to 33% and a positive ROI for this 2-year period, but it's not a significantly positive ROI. You don't want to bet 463 horses to win and get a small $16 profit, but That's the idea. You know, you would keep refining this until you get it to a point where the ROI is acceptable, the win percentage is acceptable, and you know this occurs frequently enough that you know you can play it. Um, that's the basic idea, and you know, please keep sending in your email questions and let us know what we can help you with. We're happy to do it, and you know, again, there's almost an infinite number of things to look at here, and any idea you have, you know, there's, you know, just to give you some ideas, pointers, you know, start with these advantages. I've done some really, or I've created some really great angles for trainers, and you know, just focus on a trainer and what kind of races they're winning and what kind of horses they're winning with. So if you look at a trainer and you focus on his winners and start finding what's common among his winners, you know, what kind of advantages these winning horses have, and what kind of rankings they have to have in order to win, you can really focus on the types of horses that trainers win with. You can do a lot of that stuff. You can do individual race profiles. This has been fantastic for people playing pick threes and pick fours and pick fives. If you've got these race profiles done like we did in the earlier example, you know, if I'm playing a pick three into at Saratoga today, I'm certainly going to focus on that 10 horse. No guarantee that he wins, but he's got a great shot statistically. And if you can find a 3 or 4 race sequence where you can eliminate most of the horses and you end up with 2 or 3 horses in each race, that's worthy of a you know, a pick 3, pick 4 type bet. So it takes some work to do this, but the payoff is fantastic, and I can't stress that enough. You got to put in the work, but when you find these angles that are positive and profitable over the long run, and you start focusing your betting on that, you know, these are positive expectation bets. So you find these angles, a horse pops up today or tomorrow or whenever, and you know that it's long-term a profitable play, and then you can look at that horse and you can see it. You know, of course, you've got to check the odds. If it's, you know, going off at even money, is that worth playing? I don't know. But if you can find a horse that's going, you know, 3-1 or better, and it meets one of these angles that you've created, then you've got a solid play. And that's the only way you're going to win in this game long term, is to put your money on these solid plays that have proven potential. All right, appreciate it. Sorry for the long video. Thank you.